Hey, Com 252, this is Joe. My hair is all jacked up from the rain. Anyway, we're going to do chapter 3 today. Welcome back. Glad to see you. Please keep watching these as I go through all of it. Perception. Your perception makes up your reality. You ever heard that before? It's like, oh, well, you perceive things and everybody's perception is their own reality. Well, there's a lot of truth to that because it's true. If you perceive yourself, like I said in my last video, you perceive yourself to be funny, attractive, handsome, good looking, sex, whatever those things are, then you're probably going to act that way. If you perceive yourself as funny, you're going to act that way. If you perceive yourself as less than, unfortunately, you're also going to act that way, which we shouldn't do. Perception is the process of selecting, organizing, and interpreting information from our sources or senses. So basically, what it is everything, and then you're going to hear this a lot. One, communication is all about what? Getting what you want to a certain extent. And two, everything has communication value. So your perception of me watching these YouTube videos is your reality. It may not necessarily be the reality that's true or about me, but it's your reality. And you think that's the truth. And we all do that, right? You see two people sitting too close together and one thing, and this happened to me the other day, and you think something's going on there, when in truth, somebody just sat down and the other person may or whatever. You perceive things, and it isn't necessarily what's actually happening, but it doesn't change that it's your reality. We all select information from all of our different senses and sources, and selection involves focusing attention on certain sights, sounds, and we usually and things that we have that would use the word salience or attract attention. Things that we're going to pay more attention to. You see two people, and we'll talk about this as the book goes, at proxemics, where people stand. What does that mean? Like this person standing this close to me, this person isn't. And we organize all that information, and we use punctuation, structuring the information to build a story. And a lot of times we build that story, remember our perception, based on what we've already preconceived notion. And that preconceived notion can be different things, but how we interpret the information usually has a bias to it, right? So we create explanations. In addition to drawing on our all of our different information from interpersonal encounters, we make or create explanations for others' comments or behaviors. Attributions is what we call it. And this may come up later. Wink. So what we attribute to them, like, oh, they said that because they're mad at me. And then 5 minutes later, you find out something. No, the dog made them mad, made them late, and they're not mad at the world. It has nothing to do with you, which goes back to this. Give me an example. I've heard so many times over the years working in higher education, that professor hates me. They don't like me. I gotta be honest with you, 99% of the time, they don't care. I mean, they care about teaching you, they care about being there for you, they care to you as a student, but most of us aren't going to take the time to actively hate anybody because it's a tough job sometimes, and there's a lot of students. So I hear this, it's like, oh, and then I always want to say to them, you're giving yourself way too much credit to think somebody is sitting around at midnight going, good, I'm going to get them. It doesn't happen. Maybe it has happened to you, and I'm not taking anything away. For the most part, though, people aren't giving you that much attention. The world doesn't revolve around you. I have the same problem because our perception is well, they're mad. It must be something I did. You're giving yourself way too much credit in that. It could be something completely different, right? So one common mistake is the fundamental attribution error, the tendency to attribute others' behaviors solely to internal causes, the kind of person they are, rather than to the social environment. Or, hey, that person, they suck. I never liked them. And then they do something. It was like, I told you they sucked, rather than it has nothing to do. We look for self-serving biases, right? The responsibility for negative events on failures we engage in self-serving bias. Well, of course, that's that person, and that's what they do. Self-serving bias. We have a narrative. In almost every story, there's a protagonist and an antagonist, a good person, a bad person. There's a good guy and a bad guy. In your story, you are the protagonist. You're the good guy. But I guarantee, and this is something we would talk about more if we're in person, if I interviewed a bunch of people who knew you, there's somebody out there that you're the antagonist to their story. And I want you to think about that for a second. Some of you are like, oh my God, I've never done anything to anybody. I'm so sweet. I assure you, somewhere out there, someone views you as the villain. We all do. We all do. We've been in failed relationships, whether that be romantic, whether that be personal, whether that be friendship. We all do. We've done things. We've had bad days, and everyone sees you in a self-serving bias where it supports their narrative of what's going on. And you do it too, because we're all animals, right? So there's a certain amount of uncertainty when we start communicating throughout. I'm always shocked people stay together as long as they do in certain relationships because we have the perception and culture. So they're in groups, people like your perception of in groups of people you have something in common with yourself, people you consider in groups, anybody who's like individuals from different groups, but you're in groupers because you have this in common. Like you may be into movies, you may be into anime, you may be into football, in groups, and out groups are the people outside of that group because we're animals and we tend to stereotype people and we put people in little boxes. Your gender also sways your perception of other people, your personality. Personality is a big one. If you're a negative person, are you going to think everyone you have an interaction with is positive? If you're a negative person and you're like, well, this is going to suck, and you get there and it sucks, is it manifest destiny? Are you manifesting that to happen? Same thing if you're positive. No, I don't agree. There's a line from a show called Justified, and I'll give you the PG version for this class. If you meet an a-hole in the morning, no big deal. You met an a-hole. Then you meet one at lunch, and then you meet one in the afternoon. You meet three or four a day. Chances are it's you. I don't know how many of you have ever thought about that. Well, everybody does this. We have our personalities, and if our personality is more negative or views towards people or doing things to me, then we tend to have an enhancement bias. Whereas, at the same time, we perceive people through a filter of our own self perception. We also tend to perceive our own unique traits more favorably than we do others, which means the number one person in your life is who? You. And you tend to see yourself as the victim, or at least the person who has the positive traits, and the other people are, bad. We have enhancement biases. We're animals. Interpersonal perceptions. Um, Impressions. So, have you ever had a first impression of somebody and it's really positive, and then somebody tells you, I don't like that person, and then another person tells you, and you're always like, I don't know, they're great with me, and you always look for the positive? It's called a positivity bias. We do it. If we like somebody, we tend to look for the positive. We also have the negativity bias or negativity effect. If somebody did something to us and it's just us and everybody else likes them, we're still not going to like them because we both do that. We have halos and horns that we put on top of people. So I knew a guy, he was old friend of mine's father-in-law. He helped me out in a bind one time. Just, oh my God, I'm 108 years old. It's been many years ago when I was in Florida on a trip with a car. And he knew a mechanic, and forever I put a halo over his head. I still probably would if I found him, I would help him. But I know a ton of people later on who had really bad negative traits, and the whole time I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. You help me out. Same thing with horns. You'll put horns on people that do something to you that everybody else like, ah. Now let's talk about stereotyping for a sec. We like to put people in boxes. The reason we do that is because empathy takes a certain amount of creativity, right? Empathy is different from sympathy. Empathy is like putting yourself else in that person's shoes. What would I do? Whereas sympathy is like, I feel bad for you. We stereotype. And stereotypes mainly sometimes have a little bit of nugget of truth for a few people. That's the reason why they become stereotypes. Like, well, this person bothered me from this group and they did this, and everybody in that group is that way. But it just doesn't stop there because we're all judgy. We judge people continuously from the moment we meet them on. We just keep doing it. Why do we do that? Because we're animals and we tend to put people in boxes, stereotypical boxes, because you don't spend enough brain power building individual characteristics and profiles for everyone you know. You're like, oh, that's Tom with the red hair. I put him over here. And that's blah, blah, blah. She's always in a bad mood. No one is ever always anything. I want to say that one more time. No one is ever always anything, but we say it a lot, right? Self-serving bias. Well, Jane is always a punk. See, I'm editing myself. So every time she does anything, it's a punkish. Jane's not always anything. Empathy takes a certain amount of creativity. And if you get to the end of chapter 3, it talks a lot about empathy because we have to have a certain amount of empathy to understand where people are coming from. To actually put yourself, well, no, I would never put up with that. Would you? We say that a lot. Or would you do something different in their position? Or are you just thinking about what you would do instead of what they would do, and thinking about their life and thinking about their situation. And I'm not giving you a hard time. We all do it. So, for in this chapter 3, check your perception. 1, check your punctuation. Am I, did they start it? Did we not start it? Something I work with my 8-year-old. He'll say, well, they started it. I always say, we're not here. We're not there to discuss who started it. We're there to discuss your behavior, how you reacted, right? We're not here to discuss whose fault it is. I'm here to talk to you about how you acted. Check your knowledge. Do you know everything? Or are you just making assumptions based on previous behavior? Which is sometimes and oftentimes true. I'm not arguing. But do you actually know the whole truth? Check your attributions. Avoid the common temptation to attribute others' communication and behavior exclusively to internal causes, such as character or personality. Check your perceptual influences. How has your life made you the person you are? I was raised by people who are incredibly negative, and I oftentimes think I'm negative. I actually oftentimes think I'm just a realist, but realism may be just a euphemism for pessimism. And we'll talk about euphemisms as you go if you don't understand the sentence I just said. And check your impressions. Are you just going with that halo or horns impression? Are you actually thinking about that person? Because we often do. We have an encounter with somebody, and that's it. That's all we have is that one encounter. And we just continually live by that one encounter. This has been chapter 3. Love talking to you all. Several more chapters to go. Keep watching.